Today we will be talking about the separation of cannabinoids for clinical use. It is also called 10 steps to purify CBD oil. And this is what Patrick mentioned for the interface. The control panel is on the upper right corner of your screen. Click on the arrow to open or close the control panel. Click on the questions panel to open it and type in your additional questions. We will be answering your questions after our seminar. So let's start. Cannabis is a very old plant that is originated in Asia. In the past, it is both used for medical and non-medical purposes. Since it is containing very durable fiber, it is especially used for the rope production and the textile for non-medical purposes. It is also used as a medicine and sedative in Eastern and Islamic cultures. In 1800s, it is used as a medicine also in Western cultures. After becoming illegal in the early 1900s, cannabis started to use less and less, and the research can only begin in 60s. So the legal situation, this is one of the most important issues that we should be addressing for the cannabis cultivation and the production. The legal situation of the cannabis is complicated at the moment. In the USA, it is legal for recreational use in 18 states, and the law is changing every day. It is also legal in some Latin America and Caribbean countries. Czech Republic, Spain, Portugal, and Holland decriminalized personal use. Germany, Switzerland, and Canada have legalized medical marijuana. Laws are changing every day, and it is growing in Europe at the moment. So as far as I can tell, it is growing every day, and we know that the laws are changing in Macedonia. So the THC production will be on in Macedonia very soon. In Romania, also laws are changing, and they started the cultivation for CBD. Also, Malta and Greece are one of the pioneers to start the cannabis business in Europe. So to be able to understand what we will speak today, first of all, we need to understand what is hemp and what is marijuana. Laws are also changing according to the type of the plant itself. Hemp is the cannabis plant containing lower than 0.0% THC in it. THC, also called tetrahydrocannabinol. This plant is mostly used for forestry, textiles, and medical use. Main vast majority of the plant is CBD. Marijuana is a cannabis plant that contains higher THC levels. These plants are also used for medical and recreational purposes. And CBD is called also cannabidiol. The cannabinoids. To understand the plant itself, we need to know the content of and the effects of those. Cannabis plants contains more than 400 biologically active substances. Approximately 170 of them are called cannabinoids. THC is a psychoactive cannabinoid found in the cannabis plant. CBD is non-psychoactive cannabinoid. To make it more clear, when we say psychoactive plant, it means that when you consume THC, it will give you the hype and high feeling. As a reverse, when you consume CBD, you will not get the high or hype feeling. However, it will have some other effects that we will discuss on later today. So here's some biosynthesis. Here I would like to talk about the synthesis of the cannabinoids. CBD and THC is produced from CBGA. A means the acid form of the cannabinoid. This CBGA is converted into THCA, CBDA, CBCA, and other cannabinoids during the flowering stage of the cultivation process. However, desired components are not the acid forms of the cannabinoids. With the thermal conversion of THCA and CBDA, it is converted to THC and CBD. So we can say that cannabinoids are in some kind of balance in the cannabis plants, and it will, once production of CBD will affect the amount of the THC will be found in the plant. The cannabinoid content. Since cannabinoids are produced from CBG, we must consider the conversion depending on the genetics of the plant. In the plant, if CBD levels are high, automatically you will have low THC levels. It is applicable for vice versa. Also, you can have balanced plants with similar THC and CBD levels. CBD dominant strains are called hemp, and the rest called as marijuana. Depending on the cannabinoid level, each plant has different effects when consumed. Here, I would like to show you some medical studies on some cannabinoids. CBD and the THC has the most studies because they are the dominant cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. As an example, when you take a look to CBD, it has analgesic, anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, anti-epileptic effects. The more research we do, the more output we will have in the future. The reason there's not many founding in the rest of the cannabinoids because they are very minor and not every plant will have the rest of the cannabinoids. So the amount of the research we did is less. So demand. Cannabinoids reduce nausea and vomiting during chemotherapy, treat chronic pain and muscle spasms, appetite loss associated with weight loss in people with AIDS, Parkinson's diseases. Cannabinoids are under preliminary research for their potential to affect stroke or children's epilepsy. We need to understand the cannabinoids does not have any curing effects. This is very important. They are used to diminish the effects of the diseases person facing at the moment, and they are also considered as a replacement of the chemical drugs like the morphine and the others. So let's start with the workflow. Let's start with the workflow, how to purify cannabinoids starting from the plant. Before digging into the production, planning, and everything, we must consider what we will do with our end product. Depending on our customer, we must choose to have or not to have GMP regulated plant. It is very important to understand that GMP is not a certificate that they give you with the instrument. GMP is the way of production, starting from when to take a step into the plant till to the shipment of the product to the end customer. It is not a part of the instrument. It is the whole manufacturing process. Once we decide which way to go, the next step will be the cultivation. This is where we grow our plants. Genetics are very important factors for desired cannabinoids content. Not only genetics, but also we must have very strictly controlled environment to be able to get the maximum yield from the plant. Temperature, moisture, light exposure, pests must be controlled very strictly. After the plants are fully grown, we extract the oil and then separate the complete process. And we can do further processing if desired. This was the overall workflow, and I would like to dig into more detail with the workflow, which instruments we use and which parts we will take role, because this is the general main workflow. So this is the total workflow in more depth. Now let's take a look in total workflow with each step in detail. As we mentioned, first of all, we must have cultivation or buy the plant from the producer. Next step is drying, and then we grind the plant into the buds for the fine particles and get it ready for the extraction. This is done because when we do the grinding, milling, then we will be increasing our surface area. So more surface area means better extraction. And then extraction is done. After extraction, winterization and filtration is done to remove the waxes extracted from the plant. During winterization, ethanol is used to precipitate the waxes to the bottom. This ethanol must be removed by using the Rotary evaporator. And then we do the short path distillation, thin film or falling film distillation to remove the chlorophylls, lipids, and remaining waxes, even the terpenes if desired. After all those materials are removed, we will have very clean cannabinoid oil mixture. This oil will be given into reverse phase chromatography, and then all the cannabinoids are separated with using customer-tailored special method. Again, we need to remove the solvent after purification because we will address more detailedly later on, but we use ethanol and water while we separate our cannabinoids. During this step, we can decide our end product purity. Once we have the clean oil, we can also decide to do the post-processing or not. What we say as a post-processing, what you can do crystallization, you can do spray drying to get the powder isolates, or you can do encapsulation to make the capsules out of it. So now we will go into more detail now. First one, the cultivation. It is one of the most important steps of all processes, because if you have cannabinoids, then you can extract. But if you don't have it in the plant, then the rest really doesn't matter how good it is. You will get nothing. Also, genetics and the cannabinoid content is very important because the content of the plant will determine how much money you will make from your end product. The aim is to have high CBD or THC content with very controlled environment and repeatable batches to maintain the same yield from each batch of production. In this step, we use BUCHI NIR called ProxiMate. BUCHI NIR is used to determine the amount of the content of the plant. So we use this machine before we start our extraction. So we will know what the yield will be after the extraction because we will know the content of our plants. NIR device for fast measurement of the cannabinoid content of the plant. Cannabinoid content of the plant is not very stable. It changes depending on the growth medium, ambient conditions, nutrients, genetics. With proper calibration, you get results in 15 seconds. Otherwise, how can you trust your plant material? It's also very important to address this step because there are various cultivation methods. You can do indoor, you can do outdoor, you can do greenhouse, and in each process you will get completely different results, completely different content. Even though you use the same amount of clones of the material of the plant, if you plant one clone into the greenhouse and if you plant one clone to the indoor, in the end, I will guarantee you will get completely different results in the content of the cannabinoids. So that's why knowing your content with the ProxiMate is very important. Here are some key features of the ProxiMate. It is small and light, so it can be carried easily. It has very easy interface to use and default user management. With that property, you can create reports for your batch. It has a window-based software with TeamViewer. That means if you have any problem with the device or with the calibration, our experts can easily connect on your device to fix the issue or help with the calibration. The most important feature is AutoCAL function, which means you can create your own calibration without using an advanced chemometric software. Once you enter your reference results into the different system, the device will create your own tailored calibration within a few seconds. If you would ask how we do it, it depends how you want to create your calibration. On the screen, you can see a guy is putting some meat sample into the ProxiMate. Instead of meat, we put our grinded or bud flowers into the system, and we enter our reference results. After all, once we create our calibration with 3 clicks, 3 touches, you can do your measurement. So the ProxiMate has an industrial grade touch screen which can operate easily with rubber protective gloves. It takes only 3 touches from selecting a method to the starting of the measurement. If you have different strains, you can create more than one calibration, and the device itself has auto sample recognition. So once you put the specific type of strain, the device will automatically recognizes which strain it is, and you can name it as if you would like to. Büchi is the first one to introduce AutoCAL function on the benchtop NIR devices. The calibration can be easily created with entering 3 different samples into the system. Of course, more samples mean better calibration. It is very easy to create calibration on the device. Only thing you do is enter the reference result and include those results into the calibration, and then device will do the rest for you. So on the top of the picture, you will see a big black button. That button means the AutoCAL. So once you click this, your results will be added to your calibration. User management. User management is also very important for the production facilities. In the plant, each employee has a different job. So it is important to have different user levels on the device to have better data security and protection. It has operator, administrator, and service levels. This eliminates the operator mistakes on the calibration or other details. The device itself comes with the pre-installed TeamViewer, and our experts can support you with that if you need it. That means once you select the operator, it means that operator cannot interfere your calibration. It means your operator can only do measurement. Once you select the administrator level, in the administrator level, you can play with your calibration, you can change calibration, you can add calibration, and you can do anything with the device. So it is very important to make it level and level. Report editor. Measuring the content of the cannabinoid in the cannabis plant is important. However, it is also important to record those data, and create a report is very important. Knowing the content will allow you to operate in a more convenient way in different production steps. You can easily customize your methods and convert them into PDF or Excel. ProxiMate has various default report templates. However, if desired, customer can easily create their own report format. So once we grow our plant, the next step will be drying and milling. Once the cultivation and trimming is done, we need to dry and grind the buds to make them ready for the extraction. In the drying and decarboxylation oven, we do that. The plant is dried and decarboxylated. That means THC-A and CBD-A is converted into THC and CBD. It is always an option to have decarboxylation after extraction. However, this adds one extra step and instrument in your production. With drying and decarb oven, you can do both in the same time. However, amount of the plant is very important. If you have very high amount of plant material, sometimes drying and decarboxylation ovens are not large enough. After this is done, milling is complete to increase the surface area of the buds prior to extraction. So that means if you have an entry-level production like low volume and mid volume, you can use the drying and milling ovens on the same time. But if you have very large production, then the ovens are not large enough, and then instead of decarboxylation of your buds in this step, you do the decarboxylation after extraction. The third one, extraction. Extraction is the step where you get your crude oil from your plant. There are many ways to do the extraction. Supercritical CO2, solvent ethanol, hydrocarbon extraction are some examples for that. In cannabis industry, most used methods are supercritical CO2 and solvent extraction. Depending on the regulations and the money you have, you can decide to choose one. In supercritical CO2 extraction, you don't use any solvent, and it's considered as a green chemistry. It has very efficient process. However, it needs lots of optimization and very expensive when compared with the solvent extraction. If you go with the solvent extraction, then probably you will use ethanol as a solvent. It is common and cheaper than supercritical CO2 extraction. However, afterwards, solvent must be removed from the oil, and it may leave a lot of active ingredient behind. So both methods have pros and cons, and depending on your end product, depending on your cap cost, you can decide which way you would like to go. But it is also a very important step, because if you can extract, then you can purify. If you cannot extract, then there's nothing to purify. Winterization. So as we mentioned before, winterization is the step to remove the waxes from the crude oil. Basically, 1 by 1 volume of crude oil and ethanol is mixed and put into the freezer at -85 degrees. This is the close temperature level to the freezing point of the ethanol. We don't want to freeze the ethanol. We just want to react the ethanol with the waxes and precipitate. Depending on the wax content, the mixture will wait up to 24 hours in the freezer and the wax precipitate to the bottom. It helps to reduce the wax amount from 2000 ppm to less than 10 ppm. Removing wax is very important for your colon health that we will discuss later in chromatography section. Once the winterization is finished, filtration is done to remove the precipitated waxes. For this application, the instruments varies a lot. Small volume production companies and clinical research companies usually use Büchner funnel with proper vacuum filtration. If we want to eliminate human error and need to go to larger volume, then we can go to choose filtration skits or filtration presses. Depending on the oil, 10, 20, 50 micron filters can be used to remove the waxes from the oil. So we removed our waxes. However, we mix our oil with the ethanol prior to winterization. So once the waxes are removed, remaining oil will have cannabinoids, terpenes, chlorophylls, and solvents, which is ethanol. Prior to short path distillation, all of the solvent must be removed. Since the solvent is very expensive and to be eco-friendly, it should be recycled. Small and mid-scale production companies usually uses 20-liter and 50-liter industrial rotary evaporator. Large-scale companies usually go for solvent recovery system or multiple industrial rotary evaporator. If we take a look what is essential for the industrial type of rotary evaporation, there are three main things that we must consider. First one, descending type condenser. It is very important to protect the condenser from the foam. The condenser is where your ethanol is condenses and distillation is done at this step. If the foam goes into the condenser, in this part I want to tell the cannabis is a natural product, and once we put our cannabis under vacuum with high temperatures, which is the rotary evaporation, it starts to foam. So if the foam goes into the condenser, it will decrease your evaporation efficiency and it is very hard to clean. With the help of the dual receiver system, this is the second one, you don't need to stop the process. Once one of the flasks are full, you can just switch to the other one and you can clean the other one. So you can switch between two receiving collection flasks. The third one is the foam sensor. Foam sensor detects the foam in the evaporation flask, and interface unit of the device will adjust the vacuum to suppress the foam. This allows for unattended distillation, even for challenging applications like cannabis. So Büchi offers 20-liter and 50-liter industrial evaporation units. To be able to have the ideal setup, you must have the maximum rotation speed, temperature difference between bath and boiling point about to be 40 degrees. Cooling temperature must be below 10 Celsius, that vapor temperature. Cooling media as a water with strong vacuum source must be used. However, those ideal conditions are not always met because of foaming and bumping products. It's unable to achieving desired temperatures also due to thermal sensitive materials like cannabis, and the distilled solvent is not always pure. So it is not always possible to reach the ideal conditions, but with using the proper functions, proper foam sensors, you can also increase the time of the distillation. So Büchi offers a special cannabis bundle for the 20-liter industrial rotary evaporation. It can be used after winterization and after chromatographic separation. It contains descending condenser and 10-liter dual receiving flask. It contains foam sensor and interface I300 units, helps to have unattended operations even with foaming and bumping samples. Very strong vacuum and cooling source from V600 and F325. Evaporation flask for this bundle is very special and it contains amber glass for UV protection of the samples. With the help of the flask handler, it is easy to carry evaporation flask. The device itself has a performance up to 10 liter per hour ethanol recovery. So on the bottom picture, you can see the amber glass. It is most amber glass is used for the cannabis because we want to eliminate the UV lights coming from the sun. So this gives you some extra protection. So short path distillation. It is very important step to remove the remaining undesired materials from the oil. Not only the short path, but also thin film, wide film, and falling film evaporation can be used. Prior to this step, carboxylation and winterization is very essential. Short path distillation distills at very low pressure and high temperature to remove the terpenes, cannabinoids, and chlorophylls that leads to more efficient chromatographic separation. So to give you a little bit more detail about the short path distillation, this picture is taken by the falling film evaporation. So let's discuss how it works. So the crude oil filled and it's poured into the vessel, which is heated. So the crude oil in this part is the orange on the top. You put your crude oil and it goes down to the middle section. In this middle section, it sticks on the walls because this is rotating. And it is also heated while it's rotating. So lower molecular weight molecules will evaporate. Terpenes evaporates and goes to the external condenser. They condensed and collected there. Afterwards, temperature of the heater is changed and the remaining oil is given to the system. Cannabinoids evaporate the second one after terpenes and the vapor travels into the internal condenser. It condenses there and collected into the cannabinoid flask. The rest is collected as the waste flask. This is called falling film evaporation. During the run, you can change the temperature. You can't change the temperature. That's why you need to run the system twice. The first run will be removing the terpenes, and the second run will be removing the cannabinoids. If you use simple short path distillation, temperature can be changed during the run. However, you must adjust the collection flask manually and change the temperature manually. Both methods has some pros and cons, like the extraction. So in this case, if you want to run higher output, you can go with this falling film system. It has higher volume capacity, but you have to run the system twice because you can set to the temperature only one value. But if you are using short path distillation, the simple versions, it is working like a rotary evaporator on the benchtop, but with the very, very much more strong vacuum source. Then you can set your temperature to the low one to remove the terpenes, and then you can increase it. Once you remove all the terpenes, you must switch a flask, and then you start to collect your cannabinoids. After distillation is done, the oil content will have very pure and clean cannabinoid mixture in it, without undesired materials, and this is given to the chromatography system. Reverse phase chromatography is done, and water and ethanol mixture is used as a mobile phase. Reverse phase chromatography is done, so C18 mobile phase is used. For the separation, Büchi offers 1.5, 3 kilo, and 5 kilo cartridges for the high sample amount of the separation. As a detector, UV and ELSC detectors are used. So since last week, we only had 1.5 and 3 kilo C18 cartridges, but last week, Büchi is the first company that introduced 5 kilogram C18 cartridges to the market. So the highest amount of the output you can get with the chromatography system is the Büchi at the moment. So for the large amount of sample purification, Büchi offers pure series of flash chromatography models. Pure C810 is our entry-level model with UV detectors only. It can operate with 250 milliliter per minute with 50 bar pressure limit. The only difference between C810 and C815 is the ELS detector of the C815 model. It comes with the extra detector and dry air supply. ELSD is used for the detection of non-UV absorbed materials, and terpenes are considered as a non-UV absorbed materials. You cannot see the terpenes under the UV, but you can see it under the ELSD. These two models are the preparative HPLC models of Büchi, and again, 830 is the UV only, 835 is the UV plus ELSD. I can tell that the maximum amount given to the prep system is 1 gram. So this system is not for the high amount, but this system is to remove the very expensive but very small quantities. And this is the combined model. So 850 model is flash prep, which means in one device you can have flash and prep. Büchi has unique chromatography features in new Pure series. One of is less space. It doesn't need to put under fume hood. Has small footprint and combined flash prep units. Second one is safety. It has remote control, built-in fume hood and level pressure sensors. Third one is the simplicity and easy software use, ELSD technology, flexible injection, and easy cleaning and maintenance. Pure chromatography system saves space for you. It has very compact design. Solvent platform can be put on the top of the cartridge, can be mounted on the right side of the device. It combines with the flash prep. You can use two systems in one device. Pure has integrated fume closure at the fraction collector, so the device doesn't necessarily be in the fume hood. Actively ventilation can be done easily. Remote control allows the operator to control the device from somewhere else. This eliminates the exposure to chemicals in the lab. Also, with the vapor sensor, the device detects the high amount of solvent in the environment and it gives you a warning about it. Pure is a very simple device. It has flexible injection methods like solid and liquid loading with universal cartridge holder. It also minimizes the training need for the user. It has single programming screen, 4 UV signals, PDA scan, and 3D view. Single click from switch from flash to prep mode. Also, we have RFID technology for the cartridges. In the liquid loading, we can also use sampling pump for the high amount input to the systems. So Büchi offers a wide range of cartridges, more than 170 type. For cannabis, we have 1.5, 3 kilo, and the new one is the 5 kilo C18 cartridges are the most used ones on the market now. So let's take a look to the method. Those are the starting recommended conditions for the cannabis applications for 1.5 and 3 kilo cartridges. Ethanol and water are used as a mobile phase. You see the difference in this point, the only difference is the flow rate of the both cartridges, because once you have the cartridges, the amount of the back pressure you will get from each cartridge is different. So you cannot run all the cartridges with the same flow rate, which means in the small ones you can use lower, but in the big ones you can go more. If you want to use the 200 ml in 1.45 kilo, your back pressure could be way too high and maybe it is impossible to do it. But with the proper method optimization, you can decide what would be your maximum. And in this case, the gradient from 0 to 60 minutes, your gradient goes from 70 to 90% B. B is the ethanol concentration in this case. So you can easily see both methods are 60 minutes, but with the bigger cartridge, you can run more samples. So separation. Now I would like to show you the real-time cannabis example from one of our customer. This is the test that I did by myself, and this is the first method that we created. In this method, we use 4 gram C18 cartridges and the gradient table, as you can see on the left-hand side. We started from the 65% and we continued with the 65% of ethanol for 3 minutes. And then in 15 minutes, we increased our gradient from 65 to 100. This is ethanol. And then we run with the 100% for 5 minutes. We had the peak for the CBD and THC and a little bit something at the end. However, the separation was not very good. That's why we need to optimize our method. We used the UV scan details for the exact UV signals of the cannabinoids. So on the left-hand side, there's a big peak. This is CBD. And on the right-hand side, you have slightly smaller, and it is THC. However, this separation is not very good. So we optimize our method a little bit and change our cartridge. So this is the second we had. On the next run, you can see the separation is much better. We use 40 gram cartridge and optimize our method a little bit by changing the gradient table. There are some unexpected cannabinoids. We suspect that these are the results of the terminal conversion of THC to CBN. So I want to give some little bit of detail. So this is the second run we did. And again, we started with 65 gradient of ethanol. And then we found out that CBD is coming somewhere at 68, 69. So we said, instead of going to 65 to 100, let's go step by step. So we did in 8 minutes, we increased our gradient from 65 to 70 and 8 minutes from 70 to 75. Because again, in the beginning of the 70, 71, you start to get the THC. So once you go slower in this case, you will have much better separation. And this is exactly what happened. You can see the CBD peak is perfectly separated and selected, and it is completely removed from THC. I'm 100% sure there's no THC in the CBD because the separation is very good. And you can also see the THC peak. So this plant was CBD dominant plant, and the aim was to have full spectrum CBD oil. What does full spectrum CBD oil means? It means they want to have all of the terpenes and the cannabinoids in their oil, but not THC, because the regulation is saying in that country you cannot have THC level 0.3% more. So in this case, they will take the vials of the THC, they will dispose it, they will throw away, burn it down, whatever they will do, and then they will mix the rest, and they will get the full spectrum CBD oil. So there's something very surprising at the end. There is very tiny peak on the end. So this oil was put under the thin film distillation. So under the thin film distillation, as we mentioned, there is a rotation column, and this rotation column is heated. So we can evaporate the terpenes and the chlorophylls later on. However, while you have the cannabinoids and when they are heated, we know that the heat converts THC to CBN. Actually, this is very good news, because if they have more THC to CBN conversion, that means they will have less trash for CBD. They don't have to remove all the THC because it is converted. And as far as I know, CBN is almost like 8-9 times more expensive than THC. So in this case, they are making more money. So the separation, it can easily scalable up to 5 kilo cartridges. Solvent recovery is possible after purification. Method optimization can be done for low-end solvent use for pure CBD, THC, and terpenes fractions can be collected. Also, we can say that 5 kilo, 3 kilo, 1.5 kilo, doesn't matter. C18 cartridges can be used multiple times. So after chromatographic separation, we must remove the solvent from our purified oil. In this manner, we use our Büchi R220 20-liter or 50-liter rotary evaporator that we used before for the winterization. We can achieve up to 98% pure CBD crystals with this evaporation, and then you can recover our solvent with our rotary. In this step, you have to decide which way you want to go. Do you want to go to isolates? You go for the spray drying. If you want to go for crystals, you can get crystals from this machine. But if you want to have uniform crystals, then you must have a special crystallization machine. If you want to 50% pure oil, and if you want to give to the homogenizer for the edibles, for the vaping products, then you can get it from the rotary evaporator also. So number 10. So the further processing can be done depending on the desired material. With using two B290 Büchi spray dryer, you can produce fine CBD powders, and you can create those 99% pure white powders. With B390 encapsulator, you can use to trap the CBD oil in the beads or the core shell material. So today, that was it. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your listening. And if you have any questions, please ask here, and you can make sure that we will get back to you as soon as possible. If you have any questions to marketing, you can go write marketing@buchi.com. And we also have LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram page you can visit. Also, I highly recommend you to go to Bart's blog for colorful researchers. This is our chromatography blog, and it's really nice, and there's lots of new information regarding the chromatography in here. But yeah, thank you very much for your listening. I wish you have a great day, and I wish you all have a healthy days on those very hard times. I hope you like my presentation. Now we can take the questions.
All right. So we still have some time, and we have some questions till the end of the webinar. Those questions has been recorded during the registration process. So John, can you answer the question, how to make the calculation to determine the percentage of cannabinoids? Could you answer?
Okay. Yeah, of course. Can you hear my verse perfectly, Patrick?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
That's great. Okay, that's great. So how to make the calculation determine the amount of the cannabinoids? So in this case, there will be two different. If you are asking the amount of the cannabinoids in your plant material, then you can go for ProxiMate NIR device. So within 15 seconds with the NIR device, we can determine your CBD, THC, CBN, THCA, CBDA, whatever you calibrated, you can get to these results. However, in this case, if we are talking about the amount of the cannabinoids after the separation, then your answer is the HPLC or GCMS. So if you go for the HPLC, you can do analysis to amount of the cannabinoids in your oil.
All right, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And another question we have is large-scale preparative chromatography used to polish the final product, and what stationary phases, if any, are used?
Okay, that's great. So this is also what we mentioned. So in this case, in chromatography, in flash systems, you can have normal phase and reverse phase. We determine this, should we go for normal or reverse phase, determining on the polarity of our product. In this case, we have to go for the reverse phase. And when we go for the reverse phase, we use C18 as a stationary phase, and we use ethanol and water as a mobile phase. So in this case, the answer of this question will be C18 is a stationary phase. However, if we do use normal phase like silica, I do not believe the separation is good, and your results will not be good because of the solvent that we use.
Thanks a lot. And the third question is, what are some reasons we would want to remediate THC and CBD?
So, okay, why we separate THC and CBD? So there are not one answer for this question. There are many. First of all, what is underdone in Europe, in Canada, we separate THC and CBD. As in Europe, especially, we do it for the medical research, because once we use CBD or THC, we can make a medicine out of it, and we can replace the chemical medicines like morphine. The second, what you can have at the market at the moment, it is very popular to have cosmetics like shampoos, hand creams, CBD soaps. So CBD is also purified to get the cosmetic products. Also, what you can do, you can have edibles like the brownies, cookies, CBD drinks, or THC drinks. The edibles are very popular in the United States and Canada. And the other one, what you can do, you can have vape products. So it's like the electronic cigarettes. So THC and CBD is isolated to also make these products.
Thank you very much, John. And we still have some minutes and some questions. Another question is, can we use pure to determine the percentage of CBD in different strains?
Of course no. Because the answer is pure doesn't determine the amount of the CBD in your oil. What pure does is to separate the CBD and THC from it. However, if you want to determine the amount of CBD in your strain, you have to go for the ProxiMate, like we answered on the first question. But what you can do, you can create different calibrations for the ProxiMate, or if you have similar results, let's say strain A and strain B. If we say strain A has 20% CBD and strain B has 16% CBD, you can create a calibration starting from 15 to 25%. Let's say you have a big data for 15 to 25, and you can measure strain A and strain B from the same calibration that you are using. But if you are going for hemp or marijuana, then the results will be different, because in hemp you will have higher CBD, in marijuana you will have very low CBD. In this case, you have to create two different calibrations.
Thank you very much. And the question is, what are the most common vehicles employed in final formulation of THC and CBD consumer products?
So for the formulation, I would say spray dryer, because with the proper spray drying, you will get fine particles, 99% pure THC or CBD crystals, but the particle sizes will be very, very similar. So in pharma industry, they are using spray dryers for the formulation. Again, in this case, for the THC or CBD, you can use spray dryer for the formulation.
Thanks a lot. And another question, what happens if we skip short path distillation?
Okay, so let's go back. What happens in the short path distillation? In the short path, basically, we remove the chlorophylls from the plant. Chlorophylls is the green stuff that produces oxygen for us. If we skip this step and if we don't remove the chlorophylls, these chlorophyll molecules are a lot bigger than the cannabinoids. So you skip this step, give your oil to your cartridge for the chromatography. It means that in the stationary phase, your chlorophylls, since they are very big, they cannot move and they cannot go out from your cartridge, and they will be stuck in your cartridge. If chlorophylls are stuck, then the efficiency will drop, the selectivity will drop, the expected lifetime of your cartridge will drop. The cartridges are not very cheap. They are expensive parts, and you would like to use them many times. So if you have dirty oil, which is skipped by the short path, then you will have unwanted products in your oil, and this will definitely stuck your column eventually.
Thank you very much. And John, what is the final concentration of CBD and THC after purification?
After purification, it is not very possible to say that, but we can say that you can play with the concentration of CBD and THC after the evaporation. Because I can tell you that with the proper method, you will isolate CBD only and THC only. And once you put these CBD and THC on your rotary evaporation, you will evaporate your solvent and water. More you evaporate, the higher amount of the concentration you will get.
Thanks a lot. And one of the final questions, what is the daily purification rate of flush system?
Okay, so I will answer this with the 3 kilo cartridges, because we didn't work on the 5 kilo yet. 3 kilo cartridges, you can have 150 grams per hour for the clean oil purification. So in 1 hour, you can purify 150 grams. It is possible to increase this amount with proper method and very clean oil. But as Büchi, what we say, it's 150 at the moment. However, with 5 kilo, it could be different, and we have to work on 5 kilo to be able to see. But I'm sure this 150 will be higher with the 5 kilo cartridges.
Thank you very much. And can we use some rotary after winterization and after separation?
Yes, that's correct. You can use same rotary evaporator after winterization and after separation. But since it will be allocated, if you want to do the winterization and the separation evaporation on the same time, it is better to get two different 20-liter or 50-liter rotary evaporation, so you can run in the same time it smoothly.
Great, thank you. And the question, another question is, can we use the largest cartridge right away?
I would definitely not recommend this, because the better way to do the method optimization, both for your extraction, both for your purification, all of the steps must be optimized very well to have the clean oil. So as we did on the, as you saw during the presentation in the chromatogram, what we do, first we start with the smaller, and once we have very good results with the smallers, and we go up to the next one. So I would suggest start from the 12, go to 40, go to 330, and then dive into 3 kilo or 5 kilo afterwards. But we have to do some method optimization.
Thank you very much. We run out of time, and I want to say it's like this is the end of the Q&A session. We've recorded some other questions, and those questions will be answered by email after the webinar. So I think, John, we can show up with our camera and just to say goodbye to everybody. What I want to also say, the recording will be provided after the webinar. So if anything you want to see again, it will be possible after the session. Also, as I said, we've recorded the questions, and the questions will be answered. Thank you very much, John, for very precise and very interesting webinar. As I know, very soon there will be another in the mid of May. There will be another webinar, so stay tuned. We will inform you about another BUCHI webinars. As John said, stay healthy. We wish you all the best, and see you on the other BUCHI webinars. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for the help. Thank you very much, everyone, for the joining. I wish you all have a great day and healthy day. Take care. See you next time.
See ya. Goodbye.